Yo, what's up guys, Rackles here. So Hypixel just announced that they're going to be doing their second ever official Quakecraft tournament. As most of you guys who have been on my channel know, I am a leaderboard player, so I decided to quickly make this little tips and tricks video to help anybody out who's interested in playing in a tournament. So the first tip I have is actually to open up your Quake shop, go into settings, and then you're going to want to make sure that instant respawn is enabled. Any settings you have on or off inside this Quakecraft shop should also be carrying over to the actual tournament gameplay as well, so make sure this is on. Just as an example, I'm going to turn it off and I'll play a game so you guys can see the difference between the two. Now, as you can see, this is what it looks like when you have instant respawn disabled. Essentially, every single time you die, this giant "you died" screen will pop up, and it takes up about like 2 seconds of your time, but more than that, it's just really annoying. Quakecraft is a game that you're gonna die a lot in. The average KDR of a leaderboard player is only around 2, meaning that every single game you play, you're pretty much guaranteed to die more than 10 times. And that's just during average gameplay. In the tournament, it'll be even more sweaty, so the less time you have to spend staring at this screen, being unable to move, is probably better. I'll turn instant respawn back on so you guys can see the difference. My next tip is to enable hitboxes. Now you can do this by pressing F3 and B on your keyboard at the same time. Now I'm actually currently using a mod that changes the hitboxes to be a different color. You do not have to do that. By default, hitboxes will be white, and as you can see, they still pop out a lot, especially on gray maps such as this one. However, if you are using a client or a Forge mod that allows you to change the hitbox color, then you might want to test around with that as well. I personally use light green. I find it the easiest to see because I'm half blind basically. Also, as you can see here, now that I've re-enabled instant respawn, every time I die, I simply instantly teleport to my next spawn point, which is way faster, easier, and less of a hassle to deal with. My next tip is to use a relatively simple and light resource pack. Being able to see name tags through walls is a pretty big part of the game mode, since even if you shift, your name tag will still be visible to all other players in the game. Because of this, if you're using a super complicated or dark texture pack, it makes it very hard to see name tags through walls. It might be worthwhile testing out a few different texture packs to find out which one works best with you, and then stick with that for the whole time you're practicing. My final quick tip I have for you guys is to aim lower than you might be used to if you've been playing other FPS games. Essentially, in most scenarios, you're going to want to be aiming around the player's toes as opposed to around their head. There are headshots in the game, but there's no point to really intentionally go for them, as it'll mess up your aim a lot more than you might realize. The main reason for this is because Quake actually has a sort of splash radius, if you want to call it that. Say for example, I shoot and miss a player, but I still hit the floor around their general area. Most of the time, it will still register their kill. That can work up to like 2 to 3 blocks away depending on ping, etc. So if you aim low, even if you miss the player directly, you still have a relatively high chance of getting the kill. On the other hand, if you aim high and miss their head by a little bit, the beam will pretty much just carry on forever. Obviously there's exceptions to this, especially depending on different elevations between two players, but that's the general gist of it. If you keep all these tips I just gave in mind, basically the next best thing you're going to want to do is go to there and practice. As you can see, it's really the best time you could go to practice because there's hundreds of players in the queue right now. If you find that these tips weren't quite enough to help you out, I would also recommend watching more Quake content. Bit of a shameless plug here, but I do run a Quakecraft channel, so if you want to take a look at how my gameplay looks and how I generally play the game, then I would recommend flipping through my Quakecraft videos. Another good option is if, say, you notice that a player beat you by a lot, you can do /games, and then you can watch the replay of any game mode, and you can go into first person and see how they play the game, etc. Another thing worth mentioning is that during the actual tournament gameplay, you will have both trigger and dash speed maxed out, which means you'll be able to shoot every 0.85 seconds and dash every 2 seconds. So even if you don't have the best gun unlocked, everyone will still be on an even playing field during the actual gameplay. So those are just my super quick tips that I really give out to like anybody who asks if they're just starting to get into Quakecraft. Hopefully they help you, but like I mentioned, the biggest thing you're gonna really want right now is experience, so I would recommend going into the classic lobby and playing some Quakecraft. If you'd like the game, please consider subscribing, because like I said, I do upload a lot of Quake. Other than that, thank you for watching, and good luck in the tournament!